I am Dr. Andrea Goeglein. Welcome to this episode of Serving Your Success. I hope our conversation today with my sidekick, Kate Kellogg, will help you serve your own personal success in life. If you've been following what we've been talking about over the last set of episodes, the conversation around positive psychology and the importance of language keeps coming up. And I don't mean to bore you with it, but I heard something yesterday that really kind of set my mind in motion when someone said, find the words and you will find the way. Okay?
Okay.
Now, we're going to take it in a little different direction. We're going to talk about honesty. We're going to talk about social media. We're going to talk about some of the things we've already spoken about just to tie it together for you. Because while you're sitting home thinking about the job you want to get, or while you're sitting watching this on your break from work, we want to give you things to make your life just slightly better in the moment, that it all becomes the game you want to play. So, social media.
Social media.
It's been a hot topic in the studio this morning before you all arrived.
Little did you know.
Little did you know what was going on in this studio this morning.
So what was the phrase again?
The phrase, find the words and you will find the way.
Well, I certainly think people have found the words on social media. I think they've found the way. I think they've lost the way. But now we're finding the way again.
Right. And, you know, that's... I have to say, the note that I had above that was establish protocol after the fact. On LinkedIn, the business network, which I spend, I check 2-3 times a day.
Wow.
Yes, and I have been awarded by LinkedIn as a top executive coach for 2016. I am one of their top pro finders. Yep, that's quite proud of that.
That's huge.
Okay.
That is huge.
So I do for work engage in social media a lot. And there has been a lot of conversations that don't fit within the realm of business dialogue, obviously oozing over in the whole political situation. And yesterday I commented, and I've done my best, I've had to restrain from commenting, but I said that what I feel we have to do is establish protocols after the fact that no matter what our age, we literally started using something without rules. And that was a lovely thing. That's what attracted us to it.
Right.
But now having no protocol, no decorum, it's showing up all over the place. And social media is our life.
Yes.
Social media is, okay, so you take, that's my spiel for the moment. You can take it from there.
So I think you touched on, I heard a lot of things that I absolutely agree with. And I think it's important to start off with why is social media so important? Why is it important to be honest? And I think it sits at the root of social media. Okay. And that's, why do people even like social media? Like, why are we attracted like moths to a flame to the
Why
internet?
are we not getting our work done or our goals achieved?
Oh, absolutely. What is happening here? And I think at its core, social media is connecting. Okay. Or what it's supposed to promote is connection. And I think really, so when it all first started out, it was like, okay, here are all your friends. Yeah. Connect to all of your friends and find new friends, and here are all these businesses, and here are all these resources and all these connections, and everyone's thinking, this is fantastic.
Absolutely.
I'm loving this because not only am I connecting
and it was
to
easy.
People, it was easy.
Much easier than going out and meeting a new friend or going to work and meeting new people. Much easier.
It played to human nature in a multitude of different ways, whether it's wanting to connect, whether it's like that ease of having to, make the social situation just a little bit easier to go into. So it kind of takes away that anxiety.
Hands down.
So that began as a beautiful platform for awareness, for connection, and it was like that for a while, I'd say. It really had that genuine truth to it where you could trust the people and the information you were reading. And then guess what? The world realized that. They certainly realized that. Businesses realized that.
Right.
Most importantly, and they realized you could make money off of it.
Yes.
And it sort of
And don't
plays
we
off.
cloudy the water when we start
Yeah.
to be able to make money on
Yes.
things?
So
We do. We do.
my-
I want to pause for a moment because I hadn't thought about that initial attraction to it. I knew what my personal, which I've mentioned, my grandkids were on Facebook.
Right.
and
Yay.
I was going to be on Facebook. That's how I did it.
Absolutely.
Up until then, I was saying to friends that I had that were 10 and 15 years younger than me who were doing some dating stuff and
Right.
think, like, why do you want people to know where you are? Like, exactly why are you interested in this? But I hadn't focused on the sheer ease of connection. And in positive psychology, that's a core. People matter. You want to be wanted. You want to be a part of a group. So that makes perfect sense. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I like that.
It's that trust that
Yep.
businesses and advertisers and marketers absolutely capitalized on for better and for worse. I think you see that for better because now you have things like GoFundMe where people who may have like a particular issue, like per se, like someone who has
I've done
cancer.
a bunch of GoFundMes.
I've participated in plenty of GoFundMes for people who have passed away and can't afford funerals,
Right.
or for friends who have contracted diseases and can't afford the care. It's allowed this.
Now, are you doing any vetting of those?
Am I absolutely?
Okay.
Yes, there is an entire vetting process that I personally go through because that's
Okay.
your money.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, that's something that should be exercised to all nonprofits.
Right.
Really, because
Right.
you don't know the second that your money, after you push enter, save.
Because when I know that when I first got requests, they were coming directly from people I knew.
Right.
So then that was an easy decision. Is this something I wanted to do? Then
Right.
the second wave of someone's died, someone's sick, and generally I
Yeah.
wouldn't know them, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Right. But that's an entire metaphor for social media and what
Yeah.
it's done. Is it started out as a great platform, as a genuine platform, and then it shifted it because people realize they can make money. They can, use it for whatever purposes they wish to have.
I wonder if it is part. The further you get away from, because you said a word that was really a lot of what we were going to talk about today, trust.
Trust.
The further you got away from people you actually knew and had established some level of trust with, the greater the vulnerability for all of the manipulation, whether it's branding, trying to sell me something, knowing that I like to read certain kind of books, all of a sudden all those books are
Right.
showing up on my site, all that kind of stuff.
But that's large in part, I think, to human nature. I mean, that's why magazines like the National Enquirer have been like on for years
Enquirer
and years.
reminds
Yeah,
me
exactly. And it plays to that human nature because it's what people know they can do and know they can get away with. But it
Right.
also plays into the other side where they know people are going to buy into it.
Right.
Because it's whether
Yeah,
people
you touch an
want to or
emotional
not to.
chord.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
They're gonna hit it. But I mean, absolutely, there's a vetting process. Like my brother went to University of Nevada, Reno, and he was in the Lambda Chi Alpha fraternity. And one of his fraternity brothers, who was a chemical engineer, had just graduated, was doing like one of those Tough Mudders.
Oh,
like,
yes,
where
absolutely.
You sign up and you do like the obstacle course that's designed by like Navy SEALs and whatnot. And
Not something I do.
no, not something I entirely do either, unless I'm feeling adventurous. And someone's like, "Come on, Kaylin." I'm like, "Okay," but he was doing the Tough Mudder, and there was a point where it was one of those army crawl through the mud
Yes.
puddle thing, but he didn't understand that it was one of those. He thought it was like a lake, or not a lake, but like a body of water that which you would dive into.
Okay.
And so he dove into it,
And he got injured.
and he wound up injuring like the spinal cord right here, and it paralyzed him from the neck down. So it was incredibly unfortunate because that gentleman was from Pahrump, so like small town hero, went to UNR, graduated with this incredible degree, and was going to go out and change the world, and wound up paralyzing himself. And it wasn't even like he was doing anything ridiculous, but thank you to GoFundMe, it created this huge awareness around his now disability, and raised thousands upon thousands of dollars. But there was still a vetting process to where I called up my brother. I'm like, okay,
Is this really true?
and what was great was that I wasn't even directly friends with this guy on Facebook where I saw the GoFundMe. It was through friends of friends, so it was like that impact was incredible. But I have heard of instances where it's like that honesty has been capitalized upon and people are being dishonest.
And I guess that's where I want to, unfortunately, head us.
But it's important to talk about it.
Exactly.
It's a problem.
There is this great thing, and it's so many times something starts with a really beautiful intention.
Right.
Connection. I
Connection.
mean,
Trust.
And, connecting with a bunch of people that you already know, and then it starts spreading out. So now let's talk to the greed part in being marketed to. The negative impact to day-to-day life. Those, how connections have been impacted.
Right, absolutely.
Currently, I had to figure out how to defriend. I had to figure out on my business site, on LinkedIn, how just not to follow those threads. I really am quite specific when I come to a place. This is what I want to do. There's a whole lot of things about people I don't need to know.
Right. Well, and I think that comes with the transition now.
Yes.
Of understanding that this platform has now been tainted. Perhaps tainted isn't the correct word.
Yeah, the platform didn't do anything new.
The platform.
The platform's the same, but the humans.
Surprise!
Those
People
humans.
are the problem. So
we are the solution, and we are the problem.
Well, that's in all things. There's good
Yes.
people and bad people in all areas, and it's a matter of just becoming aware of that. So and compensating for that. And it's what we always come back to, is that self-awareness. It's like,
Correct.
you have to understand that there is a responsibility with these social media platforms. Like, hey, guess what? Everything on here that you're reading may or may not be true. Like, the people that you're coming into contact may or may not be having your best intentions. And I feel like that's something, comes back to like your childhood, where your parents, tell you like, be aware of your surroundings, or at least that was something that was, taught to me. Like, hey,
Right.
Caitlin, when you go into a certain place and you are by yourself or with friends,
Right.
be aware of the people around you.
Yeah, so I'll go back to the protocol. Like, how do we? And again, with the weight of all 77 million of them on your shoulder.
Right.
Putting rules, breaking rules,
Right.
seems to be a wonderful thing generationally. I would say that it is what the 15 to 25, 30-year-olds always engaged in. Mechanisms such as social media and the internet makes it appear as though they're doing it differently.
Right.
I think we're just aware of it and the volume of it. We have a platform to see it.
Right.
Are you going to be open to having rules put in place after the fact?
Well, I hate to use the word rules.
I know. We've heard about that. You guys hate.
You guys really
rules.
don't like rules. I think it's better to say boundaries, because rules kind of has this authoritarian like aura about it, where it's like, you have to do this in order to gain success, or 1 + 1 must equal 2, otherwise there's no way you're going to achieve.
So what does a boundary look like?
So I think a boundary looks something along the lines of probably, again, exercising like that. Actually, this is really tough what that boundary looks like. Gosh, look what you're doing to me.
I know.
You're exhausting my brain. But I think it's perhaps the boundary is like suggestions or like initiatives, like setting precedents. That's like, here are these boundaries we have to set for ourselves. So
I'll give you an example though.
Yeah.
That was, and this was my age group. Many months ago, I posted something, and I found that people entered into an antagonistic conversation, and I all of a sudden went back and said, I'm asking that those of you that are contributing to this conversation, please follow a certain degree, a certain etiquette.
right
When
etiquette. Boom. That's the word.
when you do this. And somebody wrote back to me, age peer, who clearly he was on my feed, so he was a friend.
Right.
I have no clue who the guy was. He said to me, wait a minute, you didn't say that ahead of time. And what I was requesting was that people use language so that the message was heard, not the emotion.
Right.
And he said, you didn't set that rule before. And I was like, really? I needed to?
Yeah.
How old are you, sucker, was what I was thinking. That wasn't what I typed. That wasn't what I typed.
Right.
But that was, and it was, to me, there is a degree which it is, whether it's protocol or etiquette. Say the word.
Etiquette.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have so little of it. That's how do you establish that? Like, how do you go back and say, there's so many emotional carnage on the pages of everything from Snapchat to Facebook and back again, that
what is
it's
the
time for
etiquette
us.
look
What's
like?
the etiquette? Etiquette. Boy, I'm really having a hard time. Yeah, kit.
Yes,
Kit. Got it.
Like
okay.
Kit Kat.
Kit Kat.
There you go.
Okay, got it. I just won't say that word. I'll let her say it.
We're just gonna right around that. But I think again, it goes back to setting the precedent. And I think there's an example we could use in this situation. There's an organic beverage company called Honest Tea.
Oh yes,
like
I know Honest Tea.
Honest Tea, like
yes.
play on words.
Yes.
And what they're doing right now is trying to start this initiative with the hashtag that would be used on all social media platforms called refreshingly honest. So kind of playing into their,
versus
message.
Shockingly honest, which we all are.
We're all like kind of like, oh look, it just keeps coming. But no,
refreshingly honest.
I think let me use the exact words so I do them justice. That what honesty is trying to do is it is aiming to create fun connections by revealing the less than perfect but shared moments that make up our daily lives. So again, going back to the beginning of what I was kind of touching on was that trust and that connection. Okay. And that's why social media originally was a beautiful thing, was because it was going back to these daily shared moments. It humanized our experience on the internet. And that's the whole point of advertising and marketing, I think, is you humanize that product, you humanize that experience, and then people go, oh, yes, that's
I relate
exactly
to that. I'm proud of that product. There are some products I don't buy because of things they're associated with.
Exactly. It's like right now with the Syrian refugee crisis, like Starbucks is now making an initiative to hire those individuals that are currently here.
Yep.
And but then it's also Subaru. When you look at their commercials,
with
it's all about, the dogs and the family, and it's marketing to those people, and you're like, wow, I just totally loved that commercial afterwards.
And I will tell you that I actually started buying a yogurt, one that comes out of Canada, CHO Chobani.
Chobani, yeah.
Chobani, because that man is of one of the Middle Eastern. I don't think he's Syrian. I'm not exactly sure.
Syrian.
But he donated $700 million to get around governments in order to help relocate. Right. The minute I heard that's what he was doing with the money from his company, I started buying that yogurt instead of other yogurts. Right. I didn't have to like it the most. I could align with what that person was doing.
Right. So, and that's easy for television, I guess, for commercials in that regard. Easy to do that. They don't have the weight and the burden of the internet. So they have these 2-minute commercials in which they can humanize themselves with you. Okay. Whereas social media is like a whole different ball game.
It is a whole different ball game.
And so I think it goes back to just setting that precedent, looking at that hashtag refreshingly honest and you have to put the word out there, and it's honestly up to the people at that point. I mean, you can't force anybody into anything.
Are you willing in your own feeds to set boundaries?
Absolutely.
Do you state them?
Do I let the other people in my feeds know? I personally choose not to, because you know what? People don't want to hear it.
You're being a little contradictory. Come back.
Okay. What I should clarify is that I set the boundaries I want for myself in my bubble, right?
Okay.
So I don't feel the need to share that boundary, because necessarily the people who are going to engage oftentimes are the ones not willing to change. The people who do want to change, perhaps are like, okay, that's really great that Caitlin said that, moving on with my day.
Right.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say, because oftentimes I feel like people feel it's easier to criticize on social media than it is to encourage.
Yeah, because you're not
so
face
that's
to
what
face.
it really plays into. It's that demon of social media. So I mean, like, do I feel there will maybe come a time where I'm like, hey, everybody, like, this is what I'm doing. I encourage you. I encourage the positivity and to exercise that same notion for yourself. I am not afraid of that. No.
Yeah, I know that I did it, and I got a varying degrees of criticism on things like Yelp and Amazon reviews. I have a personal, which aligns with what I teach in positive psychology. I will only put online positive things, those things I want to have amplified and put forward.
Right.
So when I actually start out a review by saying, I only write reviews that I can give 4 and 5 stars to. I don't have a need to give someone a 1 star and tell you about it.
Right.
I have a need to go tell that person and get it corrected. But
Right.
I don't have a need for all of the whole, to bash people at a massive level. But I let people know that about my ratings, because when anyone puts up Dr. Success on Amazon, you're going to see I like every book I read. Well, it's because I don't put reviews on the ones that I don't, and I need to have that clarified.
Well, I think what we need to clarify here is what happens on social media is you're allowed to critique things. I think that it's absolutely, you are encouraged to dissent, but it should be well thought out, and it should not be hateful. There is I guess there's just a proper way to say things. Like, you can be mature about the manner in which you operate.
My dissertation chair, Roy Jakes, had a saying, if common sense was so common. Or common sense really isn't that common. And I loved it. It was one of those things that really rang true. Common sense is not that common. Yeah. He said that to me 25 years ago.
And here we are staring it in the face.
And that's, it should. And part of the reason it's not common is because groups have norms.
Right.
What is acceptable for a 14-year-old would not be acceptable potentially to a 55-year-old. And so it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Well, there's all different levels, so it's not common. And that's why I say you said, you can't do it respectfully, do it with an informed opinion. I have also the habit of saying when my opinion is my opinion. There are things I know very deeply. I know positive psychology very deeply and its application very deeply. If you talk to me about quantum physics, I know the top 4 sentences that I repeat about that aligns with things that I use. Never come to me for an analysis on what the quantum physics answer is to something. But I let people know that. And many others will they'll say an opinion or a point of interest as a fact. And I think that that's part of where we are, where we're in this word mess of opinions, and how do we back away from that? How do we say my opinion is my opinion, and then we can have a conversation about my opinion, but stop making everything so hurtful because you're either with me or against me type of mentality. And trust me, I've said that you're either with me or against me in my life. Sometimes it just gets too darn wearing.
Well, there's a time and a place for everything. And that's what social media has muddled. Is that entire concept. And so that, again, it just goes to that awareness. Like, it's like, I feel like everybody needs to sit down and have a social media class. Like, do we really need to start having that in schools? Like, hey kids, guess what? But it speaks to the whole bullying concept too.
Correct.
It's like, okay, here are all these things. It's like a life class. Lord help us. Like, that's what
there you go.
We're gonna have
to
start
life
doing.
Is, and honestly, that makes sense to me.
Yes.
As life changes, we don't come back together. When people are over, I forget what age it is, something like 80 or 85 years old, you have to actually go back and retake a road test again.
Yes.
I have felt that way in the last year about voting and politics, and we honestly, don't know what it is we're really talking about, because politics has not been a part of our life in the way that social media brought it into our life. And we don't know. I, unlike you, did not go to school for political science.
Right.
I honestly don't know what it takes to govern. I know that it bored me to crap the way I thought those people, honestly.
No, but that's
I thought they were
that's
a bunch
fine.
of useless, never got anything done, took twice as long. We business people know how to do it so much better. I honestly, I held that opinion. And now that that's been blown up, I recognize I don't know I don't have as high a level of what it takes to govern
Right.
as it does to run one of my businesses.
Right. And now it's entirely, again, been muddled. They've come together. We'll use that phrase. They've come together. And I think maybe it does look something like a class, or, or start an initiative. Because honestly, I talk to a lot of, people, millennials, we'll say, and they're like,
Your peer group.
My peer group. And we're like, we graduated high school, we graduated college, but nobody tells you how to navigate the health insurance.
Correct.
How to finance your loans.
Right.
How to balance your checkbook and do all the taxes.
It is so amazing how many adults do not know how to budget, don't know. I had the benefit of a Depression era parents.
Right.
They were going to teach me. They didn't necessarily teach the best budgeting sometimes because it was so fear-based. But the truth was, we grew up in an envelope system,
Right.
and credit cards don't lend themselves to translating that as easily. And no one really sits down. There's certain schools that have certain programs, and every so often you'll see that there's a little push in that direction. But these are base life skills,
Yeah.
to
absolutely.
which social media has now been added. And yes, I think it should be a class, but it's generational. It's all of us need to go back to school in that regard.
Seriously.
We are collectively, but it was the connection. You said the word connection with that all again. That seems to be the thread that works through that.
Right.
And with connection, the concept of honesty. And I wanted to pause and do one thing, because we were going to talk about trust and honesty and social media. That was the topic that we
Right.
were.
That's what we are addressing.
Okay. And so I went into the book, which is the Values in Action, the Character and Strengths Bible that I work with, and looked up the characteristic of honesty.
Oh, okay. What did
Okay.
it say?
So, integrity, authenticity, and honesty capture a character trait in which people are true to themselves, accurately representing, both privately and publicly, internal states, intentions, and commitments. Such persons accept and take responsibility for their feelings and behaviors, owning them, as it were, and reaping the substantial benefits of doing so. What I've just read you is the good version. Because one of the most important things to know about the values that the character strengths that I work in, it's a continuum. That's how come they're malleable. That's how come you can make a decision to take on these positive attributes. Okay?
Okay, I'm with you.
On that continuum, there is actually the opposite end of integrity, authenticity, and honesty.
Right.
And I can speak really clear. That happens to be a characteristic that's one of my top strengths. The problem with that characteristic is that I may have a need to share in an area where you are not ready to hear.
Right.
Okay? I may have a low tolerance for phonies. So I think it's time for me to tell you that you're one of those.
Right. Right.
Maybe there's a better, what was that word? Etiquette? Maybe there is a better etiquette.
Right.
And on the opposite end, I will tell you, and I did dig as deep in that chapter as I could. The authors, which are Chris Peterson and Marty Seligman of this, do state that from our perspective, evil people can be authentic. That is, their sense of self can be true to their antisocial motives and personality dispositions. And that's important when we use characteristics. You want to be honest. Well, where on that continuum are you talking about being honest? And what behaviors do inform that honesty?
Right.
So I think all together, it's that self-awareness, the connections, and the fact that boundaries social media has given us the gift of showing what it looks like when there are no boundaries.
Right. Well, and I think that's something that we as a people have to work on, because I've seen it a lot in politics.
Okay.
Because you know what has finally happened to America is there's been an entire shift of what is important to people and value sets. It's not this arching value set anymore. It's different definitions of what it means to be a family, what it means to be a certain gender.
Yep.
So I think the word comes back to connecting and coexisting, and having that, what we'll go to is our integrity.
Yep.
And our honesty, and understanding that, guess what? You have to learn to coexist with one another.
Correct.
Because you can sit here and tell me, okay, well, this is the way I think a family should be, and on the other side, well, this is what I think a family should be. Neither of you are wrong, because that is entirely, in my opinion, I don't think either of those individuals, or the multitude of opinions, are wrong.
Ways to do it.
Because that is the way in which you are allowed to govern your life. That is your freedom.
Okay.
And I mean, obviously within reason. Like, I'm sorry, you can't go around like taking away someone's life and dictating, like, within.
No baby stealing because you want to become a family.
Right. Within. But see, the problem is I can't say ethical boundaries, because some people would define ethics within their religion or within a certain creed that would discriminate against someone else's opinion.
Okay, and one of the greatest challenges is constantly having to hedge. And until we learn to articulate what we mean,
Right.
self-awareness, and be able to state it clearly. Going back to language, when you find the words, you will find the way.
Right.
Okay,
Ooh,
that's
there we
what
go.
that's what that looks like. There is a weary feeling of having to hedge so much.
Right.
Like,
Yes,
please,
absolutely.
the word boundary, we are actually starved at this moment for boundaries in everything. Humans do their best
Right.
when there is a bit of clarity. And right now, it's not clear. We've been having decades, probably 5, 6, 7 decades of shifting social change. And we are now pulling back in order to say, whoa, what do we do before we go forward?
Right.
Business, because they sell to us, because they're in our life at
Right.
a bigger level, almost than politics has been, is responsible at a very different level. And it will be interesting to see what demands you put on that. You, meaning
Right.
you and your 77 million friends.
77
Those friends of
million.
yours? Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because my 60 some odd million want to sell stuff to you.
Right.
Just saying.
Right.
But it is this lack, or I'm not going to say, I'm going to reverse it. I'm not going to say it from the standpoint of what we're missing, but what it is we're walking towards. We're walking towards the desire to have connections that are truthful, and that in fact, when we enter a given arena, we know what is the proper protocol or etiquette to bring into it. And up until this point, we have been in the social experiment of social media.
Yes.
And it gave us the gift of blowing it up. What's the best thing? I know we've talked about this on a few shows, but just think back in the last week, the best thing social media gave you.
Oh my goodness. Oh, it's so funny. I was sitting in, this is a personal experience. I think what social media has given me was, last night I was at the nail salon, and I'm sitting there, I'm just kind of minding my own business, like decompressing after my day. And this lady was walking around the salon, and she had this baby. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, there's, there she is. She looks so tired. Like, this is a brand newborn baby. Like, and
Right.
it's got its cute little fluffy little outfit on, and it's just like very sweet. That I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's so nice to see mother and child bonding. And she was walking back and forth and playing with the baby, and like, I'm thinking this is her child. And then I see this other woman across the salon get up and say, thank you so much for the services. And the lady comes over and gives back the
Takes your
baby.
baby.
And she's like, and it
That's
wasn't like a
service.
mother-daughter thing where she's like, "Mwah," like,
Right.
thank you, mom, or like, there was no
Right.
mom uttered. And then the lady exits with the baby out of the salon after she pays. And I talked to her and I'm like, was that your child? And she was like, no, it certainly wasn't. And I was like, okay, then why were you holding the baby? She's like, well, I noticed that she's a young mom, and I really wanted to help her out. I really wanted to give her a chance to not have to hold the baby while her nails were getting done. And I just thought, oh gosh, What a sweet divine moment
Yep.
in the midst of all the chaos. And then the young girl next to me who was getting her nails done, she's about 12 or 13, she's like, I'm going to put that out on Facebook. I'm going to tweet that out to everybody. And I just thought, there you go.
Spread the good.
There's a teaching moment. And so I looked over at her and I said, you know what? Thank you for doing that. Yes. And she was like looking at me like, what do you mean, lady? Like,
yeah.
And I was like, well, no, thank you for taking the time to realize the importance behind that moment.
How'd you feel when someone thought you were old?
It was lady. Scary. I was like, look, kid, I was your age.
I was you yesterday.
Yeah, and that's when I thought, oh gosh, I am getting old because I'm the one having to justify, validate me.
Yes.
I am young. Like, no, but thank you for using that ability for
Absolutely.
good. And she was like, oh yeah, like you're right. And I'm like,
right.
oh god.
Yes.
Yeah, but it was a really powerful moment, and everybody in the nail salon kind of looked at each other and was like, you know what, that we all kind of needed that. And it was all different walks of life in there, and it was like, okay, so that's been the best gift social media.
And I think that's really a great one to end on, because you left us with a story that says, no matter how something has been used negatively, we always have the power to take it back.
Yes.
So whether you're at your job and you're going back and forth in memos, or you're texting about how terrible that boss is, you have the ability to change that in the moment. And know that putting out the best parts, pausing when someone does something good on social media and is telling you about a good use of it, is the way that we will be building better and better boundaries, protocols, etiquette, whatever it is. We need something, and we are the people who can get it put together. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining Kate and I today. Our topics will change from week to week, but always know that the intent is to serve your success. No matter where you are in life, serve your own success. Thank you.
Thank you.